What is up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of The Variety Views. I'm your host, The Variety Vendor, and back again with booking the worst WWE pay-per-view year by year up to 2017, and this time I'm going through. This time it's from What Culture, and the worst pay-per-view of 2017 WWE wise, not including Takeover, is Battleground 2017, and I don't think I've ever watched this pay per view. This was around the time where I pretty much was like, I'm really done with these pay-per-views because we're getting them like twice a month from WWE, and not to mention takeovers and all the Raws and SmackDowns. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick to the week-to-week shows and watch the big pay-per-views, unless it's a it's a pay-per-view that's critically acclaimed, like Hell in a Cell that year. I remember really enjoying. So, Battleground, I decided to watch last night, and I expected it to be horrible, like the worst pay per view. And I remember in that year, in 2017, I watched what I thought was the worst pay per view of that year was Backlash, and it was a horrible, horrible show because it was not only bad, but it was boring. A lot of the matches were very, very boring. So, decided to watch Battleground, and first match to start off the show was a freaking awesome match. Super underrated, and it's better than anything on Backlash 2017. So the show starts off with the New Day going up against the Usos for the SmackDown tag titles. That's all I gotta say for you. With that match. I just gotta name, who was involved, and you'd probably figure out on your own whether the match is good or not. And I'm just saying, New Day versus the Usos. Enough said. So, Kofi and Xavier were the ones to participate. I don't know if Big E was injured at the time. But yeah, I do remember him having, like, ankle problems or something like that. And there were times where it was mostly Kofi and Xavier Woods wrestling, more so than Big E. So, the match was great. It was absolutely awesome. The fans were super into it, and it was, freaking fantastic. Then after that, we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Baron Corbin. Now the match was going well. I did like the stiffness of both guys, and man, going back to this and how over Shinsuke was with the crowd, he's still over today, but my God, at that time, the fans were just crazy for him. Baron Corbin was a really good heel, and he comes out and he had the Money in the Bank briefcase, and I'm like, remember that. So they go out there and they have a good match. It was a good match, and it was going really well. And if you had a clean finish, I would have said, you know what, this match is like 3 stars, 3.25 stars. But the finish of it was horrible, because it's something that you expect on TV, not on pay-per-view. Corbin got himself disqualified by low-blowing Shinsuke Nakamura. So we know where Shinsuke got that from. And Baron Corbin walks out, walks back in, and then he delivers the end of days on Shinsuke. After that, there was the 5-woman elimination match for number 1 contendership for the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. And Naomi was doing commentary. And you already had a full house in the commentary position. You had 3 people and you add in Naomi. And Naomi, first 2 minutes, she was just laughing. You know, oh, I'm just teasing and stuff like that. And it's so weird because the video package showed Naomi being a fighting champion and willing to take on all challengers, but it's to build a number one contenders match on the pay-per-view. Shouldn't she be in this match? Why wasn't this like a six-pack challenge? Because it's in the name. It makes sense. Naomi is up for all challengers. Why not make it a six-pack challenge? Or an elimination match? Or maybe a four-way? Because I would definitely take out Lana and Tamina. So they went out there and they had... The match was going well, but there was like a stretch in the middle where it was going, it felt like the match was showing its age. And it was going like that, and then like Tamina was breaking up falls, and I'm like, this is an elimination match. Why are you breaking up falls? And it goes to the end, and then boom, 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 everybody's getting eliminated. And then you have a little bit of a back and forth between Charlotte and Natalya, and then Natalya goes over at the end. And I'm like, yeah, fans wanted Becky Lynch to win. Even at that time, this was pre-man, pre the man character. And Becky Lynch was over. So, yeah, like, I don't think you should have had Natalya go over in there. And my God, the amount of makeup that Natalya cakes herself with. Like, she looks like a freaking, like a Greek, not even a Greek, like I would say like an Aztec statue, where it's just, I don't know, like the shape of her face because of the amount of makeup. She's very, very beautiful, without that. And I've seen her without the makeup, and she looks great. I don't understand this caking your face with all of that. So after the match, Naomi gets in the ring and she offers to shake Natalya's hand, and Natalya declines and walks away. The fans were into it. They're like, yeah, screw Naomi. We don't like Naomi for some reason. After that, we have Kevin Owens and AJ Styles for the U.S. Championship. Again, the match was going well. And it looked like that it was on its way to be good. But then, like, somewhere in the middle, it just, like, they lost all control. And it just went downhill. And then it kind of picked up. It kind of picked up at the end. And then there was this weird finish with Kevin Owens putting AJ Styles in a crossface. Then AJ rolls through, puts Kevin Owens in a crossface, and then Kevin Owens veers back, and then the ref comes to because he was knocked out earlier in the night, earlier in the match, I should say, and he crawls, and then he counts the fall because AJ's shoulders were down, but he kept the crossface on Kevin Owens. And I remember this finish being talked about, and I didn't really watch the match. I think I watched like a clip of it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's stupid. And watching it back, it still is stupid. AJ Styles looked like a fool. AJ Styles looked like the biggest idiot in the entire company. Because the dude he's got the crossface on, and it's not like he's cinching it in, and Kevin Owens was squirming, and the ref was counting right next to AJ, but AJ wouldn't let go. And then he just was like, what? I lost? Oh my God. Alright. So, another, match that could have been better. Then we have John Cena and Rusev in a flag match. I was like, okay, you know what? John Cena and Rusev, they have good chemistry. They know their strengths. They go out there, And they have one of the most boring matches John Cena's ever had. It was so boring and so like 2009 John Cena, where he would get beat up most of the match, like 90% of the match, and then he gets, a couple of hope spots, and then at the end, he goes over. And that's it. The table spot at the end was cool, but this match dragged. It dragged so long. Worst match of the night. This was so freaking boring. And the fans were kind of getting into Rusev, and Rusev is supposed to be the foreign heel, and it's like Rusev, and they just, they were booking a 1984 house show match on a 2017 pay-per-view. So, yeah, the terrible match. After that, we have Sami Zayn and Mike Kanellis. Now, this is a TV match. It didn't need to be on the show. This was a TV match. And, it would have made more sense if Mike Kanellis was the one that got over here. And then you dragged on, like, the storyline a little bit. You're building up Mike Kanellis. And then, so that it would make more sense when Sami Zayn gets his win. But you're doing this 50-50 booking, nobody gets over. So Mike Kanellis winning the first match made sense. He should have won here, and then Sami Zayn could have had another match, like a gimmick match with Mike Kanellis, and then he wins. And Sami Zayn wins the feud, but Mike Kanellis gets the most wins, so both of them are elevated. Rather than, we're just going to do 50-50 booking. Why did Mike Kanellis leave WWE again? I have no idea. Dude had the look. He had a great entrance. He's still got a hot wife, and she's a great manager. And they come out there, they look like $1 million, and whatever. And the main event, Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship in a Punjabi prison match. Now, I heard around this time people saying that in 2017, right after the BattleGround pay-per-view, they said this was a horrible match, but it was probably the best Punjabi prison match. And I thought about it and I was like, I don't know if I should watch it. Because the Punjabi prison is a gimmick match that always intrigued me. And the times that I've seen it, it was interesting. Now, none of them were great, awesome, but I remember being entertained. I remember being entertained by those matches. First one was Undertaker and Big Show in, I believe, Great American Bash 2006. It was supposed to be Great Khali, but Khali had he had a blood problem. There was some sort of blood problem that he had, and let's just say he was sick. He couldn't wrestle. So they were like, all right, we're just gonna switch him with Big Show, and Big Show ended up having a match with Undertaker. And it was a fun match. Then then the next year, I think, it was No Mercy, I believe 2007. We had Batista and Great Khali in a Punjabi prison match. And I thought that was an even better match. It was really good. To me, that's the best Punjabi prison match. I love the ending with Batista jumping from one side to the other and then, escaping. That was great. Then we see this match. And like I said, the 2007 is, is probably is definitely the best one. So, spoilers, this match sucked. This match absolutely sucked. The fans couldn't see. the structure was way too convoluted. Because if you go back and you watch like the 2006 and 2007 ones, just look at the structure. You can kind of you can make out what's going on, and not just that, but you had bigger wrestlers in the ring, so it was much easier to make out the action. Here, it's two guys that are smaller, and the structure had not only the bamboo, which was a sight for sore eyes, and it had like little ropes, like stuff. Just I think like they added that stuff just so that the whole thing wouldn't fall down. They were like, okay, let's add so many stuff just so that it can be reinforced, just so that it doesn't break apart, or just in case. And they just added so much stuff to it, to the point where you can't see what's going on. Now it's great for me watching it on my big screen TV, and you get like the zoom ins, and you got a cameraman inside of the structure. But just imagine what's going on with the fans. They don't know what the hell is going on. And there are moments where like the fans are chanting for other things. They're chanting delete, delete, delete. They don't give a shit. And not to mention, it's freaking Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. Who the fuck cares? This match sucked. It was horrible. You had two moments where it kind of looked like, this match can be fun. I would have taken away like maybe 10 minutes of this match. 10, 15 minutes. If you just scaled this match down to like 15 minutes. And you did like the big moments. Just enough stuff. And you had like maybe tables, a couple of tables, because I remember like the first Punjabi prison had tables on the outside, and they had like a couple of weapons on it, so that could have been something. Like if they did that, and you could have had like a couple of table spots. The Singh brothers getting killed is always a plus. It's always great watching them take bumps. I think it was Sunil who got thrown from the outside of the structure onto an announcer's table, and the fans chanted "Holy shit!" because it was something they can actually see, and it was a great spot. So cool. And I just think like if they did some more stuff like that, then the fans would have gotten into it. But nope. So and then at the end, of course, you had the Great Khali come out and help out Jinder Mahal win. And Jinder was taking so freaking long scaling out of the outside structure. He was going really freaking slow, and I'm just like, come on, just get out. Let's end this. And Randy Orton was just choked out by Great Khali. And it was so weird. Great Khali makes his return, and it's to Jinder Mahal's theme. Like, why not his own theme? But whatever. Because, like, Jinder Mahal's theme hit, and Randy Orton is, like, looking at the entranceway. I'm like, no, that's the theme of the guy that you're wrestling against. Why are you looking at the entranceway? But whatever. So, yeah, this match was freaking horrible. And at the end, like, Khali holds up the championship as if he's the champion now. He takes the title off of Jinder. He holds it up. And apparently the reason for that is because they wanted photos to be circulating around India with Khali holding up the championship, making people think that Khali's the new champion. So, yeah, just goes to show what a bust Jinder Mahal's reign as champion was. And the thing is, Jinder as champion, and I'm just going to say this right here, Jinder as champion reminds me so much, like, looking back, he got a good look. He has a great look. He's got this B-level, B-movie villain look and way of speaking, to the point where I'm like, yeah, this is a great villain. until he gets into the ring and his matches suck. So, like, look wise, I would say like 8 out of 10. Promos, maybe like a 6 or a 7, because, he's got this funny, it's like, mustache twirling type of old school villain. And I like it. Until he gets into the ring, which, his in-ring work is like 2 out of 10. Because he has no moves. It just like freaking punch kick and freaking SmackDown 2 creative wrestler. So, and weirdly enough, he kind of reminds me of Kenny Omega. Because of like, his mannerisms. And it's just so like cartoonish. But the difference is, Kenny Omega is an amazing wrestler. And Jinder Mahal is the antithesis of Kenny Omega, when it comes to wrestling. So, that is that is my quick review of BattleGround. Now, I know I went long, but bear with me. I had to give this show context. Was it the worst pay-per-view? To me, it wasn't. Now, there were like boring moments, boring matches. John Cena versus Rusev was almost killed the crowd. And the main event sucked. But I would say the first half was at least watchable. And especially the opener was great. Backlash has nothing on it. Payback. Those shows sucked. So, now, let's go on to my booking. How would I do it differently? Alright. We have the kickoff show, and it's American Alpha versus The Ascension. Simple match to get over American Alpha so that eventually you would put them in the tag team title picture. Simple, right? Alright. We go on to the main show. We start off the show hot with Natalya versus Becky Lynch. Number 1 contenders match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and the winner, the match would take place at SummerSlam. I would have Becky Lynch go over, and then you do Becky Lynch against the champion at SummerSlam. After that, we have Sami Zayn versus the Singh Brothers, 1-on-2. And the story of this being the pay-per-view before that, Sami Zayn faced an episode of SmackDown. Sami Zayn versus Jinder Mahal. The Singh Brothers interfered, and now Sami Zayn wants to get rid of the Singh Brothers. And if he beats them, he can get a crack on Jinder Mahal on the next episode of SmackDown. And he's like, he might get a future title shot. So he wants to get his hands on Jinder Mahal. And to get to that, he has to go through the Singh Brothers. Then we go to Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kevin Owens. I would have Kevin Owens drop the U.S. Championship at Madison Square Garden just like they did, but, we'll get to that. And Kevin Owens is like, I want to get back into the main event. And what better way to do that than to attack Shinsuke Nakamura? Because Shinsuke Nakamura is getting a lot of steam, and Kevin Owens feels like he's getting overshadowed by Shinsuke Nakamura. Because Kevin Owens is the shiny new toy in the main event, in the main roster. So Nakamura kind of overshadowed him, and that is the thing that really took Kevin Owens' eyes off the ball when he was U.S. champion. And so you do Kevin Owens versus Shinsuke Nakamura, simple match. Shinsuke Nakamura goes over, great. After that, we have the guy that beat Kevin Owens for the U.S. Championship at Madison Square Garden in my booking universe. Not AJ Styles, but Big E. Big E would be the one that beats Kevin Owens at Madison Square Garden for the United States Championship, goes on to BattleGround and faces Dolph Ziggler for the U.S. title. It makes sense. They have history together. Big E came into the main roster as Dolph Ziggler's bodyguard. So Dolph Ziggler versus Big E for the U.S. Championship, I think it would be interesting. Dolph Ziggler can put over Big E. Good match. After that, Big E's about to leave, and then the New Day come out, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, and Big E's like, hey, I retained my championship. I believe in you guys. New Day's like, yeah, we'll win our match as well. And Big E leaves, so it's now just the New Day in the ring. Because the thing that I never liked during the New Day versus Usos feud is that the New Day were baby faces and they outnumbered the heels. I never liked that idea where the baby faces outnumbered the heels. It should always be the other way around, or it should be like an even footing. So the New Day come out and they're about to face Baron Corbin and AJ Styles. Now I know what you're thinking. What? Why? Who? Why? Why is AJ Styles teaming up with Baron Corbin? Here's my idea. This is the finals for a tournament, a tag team tournament, and it's not to crown number one contenders for the tag titles. No. Here's my idea. Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan come up with this tournament, and they're like, okay, what we want to do is, because Raw took away a lot of our tag teams, we need to build up new tag teams. We need to beef up our tag team division. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a tournament and with all our teams, and we're going to add in random people. Out of the randomizer, they pick AJ Styles and Baron Corbin. AJ Styles is like, Shane, you're screwing with me again. I should be in the main event title picture. What are you doing? Shane is like, I understand, but this can be a stepping stone to that. AJ's like, what are you talking about? Shane is like, look, I need your help. This is the place that AJ Styles built, right? Well, I need your help, continuing building that and building up the division, the tag team division. AJ's like, what are you talking about? Why do I need to do that? Shane's like, if you do that for me, you win the tournament, you will get a future title shot, at SummerSlam. You'll become number one contenders. Both of you, AJ Styles and Baron Corbin, you will be number one contenders for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, and it will be a triple threat. The winning team gets to be in the main event of SummerSlam. And, AJ Styles like, better not be screwing with me. Shane is like, hey, it's in the contract right here. You can read it over. AJ's like, all right, well then I guess I got a tournament to win. He walks away and Baron Corbin is talking to Shane, and he's like, hold on a sec. Shane, why do I need to be in this? I already have the Money in the Bank briefcase. Why do I need to earn a championship shot in a triple threat match at SummerSlam? Shane goes, yeah, I get that. But you gotta understand, Corbin, you cash in that briefcase, you only get one shot. You winning this tournament, you get a shot at the championship. And that right there can be your plan B. Think about it. And Corbin goes, oh, okay. All right, well, makes sense. You got a deal. He walks off, and he goes with AJ, and then they're going through all these teams, and I'm pretty sure that they would have good chemistry, because AJ always worked well with, as being part of a team, and you've seen like how well he works with Omos. So imagine him and Corbin, and then they go into the finals and they face the New Day, and then they beat the New Day at BattleGround, and now that's your triple threat match for SummerSlam, and you can have AJ Styles go over and Baron Corbin turns on AJ in that triple threat match and then cashes in on his former partner, or you can have Baron Corbin win the championship, and he's the first ever Money in the Bank holder and champion at the same time. and like the next pay-per-view he loses the title and then cashes in right away, because he got caught, and he was like, oh, I'm cashing in right now, I want my championship back. I think that would be interesting. That would be an interesting way to go about things, and add a new wrinkle to the whole Money in the Bank situation. So after that, we got Charlotte versus Naomi for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I would have Charlotte go over, and then you build up to SummerSlam with Charlotte versus Becky for the SmackDown Women's Championship. After that, we got the Usos, who were the tag team champions at the time, going up against a dream team. Randy Orton and John Cena. The reason for that is John Cena came back in 2017, and right off the bat, I'm going to go up against Rusev. Why? Well, it's because, it's the, it was July 4th, episode of SmackDown when he came back and stuff like that. Okay, but why? Why are you doing like the whole thing, at the end of July? Because BattleGround was like on the 23rd of that month. Just do that match, like the flag match on SmackDown, and then Cena can go for the championship, tries to get the title, gets screwed, and then Cena and Randy Orton going up against the Singh brothers, and on SmackDown, them going over the Singh brothers, and then Orton and Cena, look at each other, and Cena goes, you know what, Randy, I think we work well together. And Randy goes, yeah, I've noticed that. Cena goes, I'd like to team up with you more. Randy Orton goes, you read my mind. I think we got the potential of being the greatest tag team of all time. John Cena's like, well, we'll be a tough hill to climb, but hey, there's not a single challenge that came before us that we couldn't conquer. And Randy Orton, teams up with John Cena, team ruthless aggression, going up against the Usos for the tag titles. And you can have Orton and Cena go over here, and then at SummerSlam, they drop the titles back to the Usos, and then Cena can go away and do his movies. And the Usos are elevated because they've had a program with John Cena and Randy Orton. I think that would be much more interesting than, even though they had great chemistry with the New Day, I felt like their matches were way too close together. So if you had a break in between, and you do Randy Orton and John Cena versus the Usos for a couple months, and then you would revisit the feud between the Usos and the New Day, that way you can stretch it even longer. You can stretch that feud even longer, but have breaks in between. Imagine after the Hell in a Cell match, they take some time off from each other, or maybe they team up at Survivor Series as part of Team SmackDown. New Day and the Usos forced to team together to go up against Team Raw, and then in TLC the following pay-per-view. I'm not sure if that was a Raw pay-per-view. So imagine Clash of Champions, or maybe the month after that at the Royal Rumble, they have a ladder match or something like that, something crazy. So they could have stretched out the feud. They could have stretched it out until WrestleMania. Just have breaks in between. Because the problem was, with the New Day and the Usos, as great as that rivalry was, it did not elevate other teams. Now, if you think about other eras in WWE, let's look at the Attitude Era, for example. Let's look at the year 2000 and how many tag teams they had at that time. Now, you can think of three that were at the top: the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. But they had other teams to work with to break up their feud. They didn't have they didn't always wrestle against each other. There were breaks in between. The Dudleys would go up against the Hollies, or APA. You had Edge, the Hardys go up against RTC. You'd have Edge and Christian go up against Too Cool, or go up against Steve Blackman and Al Snow. There were a bunch of teams. And the Outlaws and Kai and Tai. I can name a lot of the teams at that time. Godfather and but he was part of RTC at the time. So there were a lot of teams at that time, and everybody would get elevated. So doing something like this and having a chance to build up other teams, like Baron Corbin and AJ Styles, like Randy Orton and John Cena and the Usos, and then you build up the Ascension. You got American Alpha, you got the Hype Bros. Maybe you would team up Sin Cara and I don't know, like Sami Zayn. You could have a lot of teams, and maybe like later on you have like Sami Zayn turn heel and you do Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as a team. So you got a lot of teams to work with. So that is my idea with that. And then the main event, Punjabi Prison match. I would still do the Punjabi Prison, just change up the structure a bit. And I would do Jinder Mahal versus Rusev for the WWE Championship. And you know what? Screw it. Add in Sami Zayn to the match. Because Sami won the handicap match earlier in the night. Add in Sami Zayn to the match and be like, all right, if Sami Zayn defeats the Singh brothers, he's added to the Punjabi Prison, and we're going to have a first ever triple threat match inside a Punjabi Prison. And freaking go nuts. I would have tables on the outside of the first structure. None of this convoluted mess of like, hey, you got a minute before the door closes, and you got like 4 doors and none of that stupid stuff. You got to escape the first place, the first structure, and then you got to get out of the second structure. Simple. Don't fucking convolute it with like doors and like you got a minute for that to before that closes. None of that stupid stuff. Just try to get out. That is the whole point. And you got weapons around the around the outside of the first structure. You can do like table spots. There would be a ladder spot where Sami Zayn tries to climb out using a ladder. To make things a lot easier for him. You can do a lot of crazy stuff. But at the end, Rusev goes over. Rusev wins the championship, and now you got your monster heel. And then on SmackDown, you can do Rusev versus Jinder Mahal, because the whole idea of this is that Rusev and Jinder used to team up together on Raw. So now things are going back to this, and Rusev is like, you don't deserve the WWE Championship. And Jinder's trying to prove himself. And it's a Punjabi Prison match, and Rusev is like, sure, I'm a barbaric bastard. Bring it on. And they have that match, and then, at the very end, Rusev goes over, and now you got your monster heel. Just imagine Rusev being built up as a monster heel, and then you go into Survivor Series when you have your champion versus champion match, and you do Rusev versus Brock Lesnar. I would have loved to have seen that more than any other match. Just monsters beating each other up. Like, that would have been great. So yeah, that's my idea for BattleGround 2017. I know I went a little bit long, but hey, it was necessary. And with that being said, like, comment, and subscribe. Then that bell icon to be notified on future episodes on the Variety Vendor channel. Check out my next video where we talk about something else. Take care.